cards using the Simon Says stamped June card kit. Let me give you a quick sneak peek. We're going to be creating 3 cards. First, we're going to be using all the contents of the kit. And you know, I like to use very basic supplies. Not all of us have huge craft rooms, so I want to use what we've got. We're going to be using some clean and simple, utilizing everything in the kit. Stay tuned to let me know what your thoughts are. Are you going to get the kit? And all the descriptions of products are linked below. Alright guys, we are going to start with our clean and simple, and for this card we're going to be using the gorgeous leafy frames. These is designed by Christina Warner, and absolutely you could tell because of her handwriting. I have already placed on my acrylic block the Always Here For You along with the circle, so we're going to be using these stamps for our first card. And then for embossing powders, you're going to need the white embossing powder. This is a Simon Says stamp. And then we're going to be using the ultrafine antique gold. It's a really nice dark gold color. And we're going to pair this up with the embossing and watermark ink. Really like this. It's a nice and juicy pad, and it's not too stiff. So that's one of my favorite embossing pads. You're going to need from the kit the ivory. This is a craft cardstock. It's absolutely nice and thick. It's going to be great, and we are going to serve as our card panel. And then we are going to do a little bit of that gold embossing with the white also included. You can use your Nina if that you prefer not to use what's in the kit. So for our finishing touches, I'm going to be using the Nouveau drops, and this is in the Crystal Drops Coppery Penny. It's I thought it went really well with my antique gold embossing powder, and it's going to pop really nice. You're going to be needing some foam and some permanent adhesive. So let's get started setting up our card. Alright guys, I have my supplies set how it's going to work. So I'm going to be embossing the sentiment Always Here For You using the white embossing powder, and we're going to do this on the center of the craft cardstock. This is going to look really nice. This is a great way to incorporate some of your basic supplies such as embossing powder. So we're going to grab that, and honestly I've found that if I to mass produce this kind of card, if I do all my heat embossing in one turn, my gun's hot, it all gets done, and then it all cools off right at the same time. So I'm going to set that one aside, and then we're going to move on to our floral wreath. And again, with this larger stamp, we're actually going to bring in the pad and stamp directly onto the ink pad to the stamp pad, and that way I get to be sure that I covered the whole thing. All right, now after a couple passes, we're going to trim this, so it doesn't matter if you want to save some paper. We're going to just press that down, get an even image, and then we're going to go and grab our gold embossing powder. And these little containers, Simon Says Stamp has them for sale, I believe, on their site. I actually picked them up at my local TJ Maxx, so you can use anything you like, but these are just great. And it takes about 2 little cans of embossing powder. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set these and not torture your ears. All right guys, so it is nice and heat embossed, it's cooled, and so we're going to go ahead and do some quick watercoloring. This is going to be super messy watercoloring, and the reason why is I don't want to take the time to do details on this. I'm going to set aside my Always Here For You, which we had embossed in white, and we're going to begin coloring. So I have the Zig Clean Color Wheel brush, and this is May Green, and I have a selection of 4 colors. And what I like to do when I am using these guys, I like to grab my acrylic brush and you know, kind of brush it over on the side. And the reason why is that I'm going to grab that color, so I'm simply using the brush to add my shadows. And when you add shadows to your coloring, that's what really gives it that pop or that life. All right, next up we're going to be using the green shadow, and it's kind of a minty color. So again, this is not meant to be super strenuous. You know, this isn't a watercolor tutorial. This is just an easy way to watercolor some of these images. And honestly, I don't like to color. I mean, I can, but when it comes to tutorials, you don't want to see me spend 30 minutes on coloring a simple image. And so I just like to do what they call the messy watercolor. And these Zig Clean Color brushes, try saying that a million times, are a great alternative if you don't want to come out with your Copics and stuff. These flowers are absolutely gorgeous and you can do Copics, but for this video, I'm not going to. So I have my water brush and I'm gonna grab some of that first color green. And this is what I meant about messy watercolor. We're just gonna grab some of that color and color it in. And you know what? Don't worry too much about staying in the lines. And the reason why is that we're gonna go ahead and hand cut this. I think at some point Simon will have the coordinating dies, but when it comes to your kit, there are no dies, so you can totally go ahead and fussy cut this. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut the interior and we're gonna cut the exterior around the wreath. This mint color is a little more fussy to use, as you can tell. We're gonna move on to grab the pink and see how fun, if you add the shadows first, give it a little bit of time to dry, then you come in with your water brush and just fill in the rest. Makes it look a lot harder and makes it look like you worked a lot harder than what was really done. So this is a great way to mass produce cards. And I love this kit. I think there's so many cool sentiments and it's gonna be really fun. All right, we're gonna just add those to my little green or my purple, I don't know what these are, flowers. And you know, this mint is really light, but it's really pretty. So I'm just gonna add a few more brush strokes to this. I'm gonna add more to my acrylic and grab that. Once this is dry, I'm gonna go ahead and hand cut, and I'm not gonna put you through the process of that, but we're gonna cut the interior and then the exterior following the edges of the flowers. All right, so this is what it ends up looking once it's cut. I just went ahead and stabbed it with my scissors and cut around it. You can cut as close or as far as you want, but I really wanted to expose a little bit of that white, so when we put it down, it shows and it matches that heat embossing. But before we do that, I have a little bit of this Color Shine. This is an old spray. I think I need to get a new one. But I'm just gonna flicker over. It's gonna give it a little bit of dimension, a little bit of sparkle onto that. So then we're gonna put this away. We're gonna grab our wreath. We're gonna remove the backing, and this is just 3M foam that I have cut super thin. And that way I can really use it. You don't have to use a roll of foam. You can use a little, like the circle ones or whatever you like, you can use. So that is almost finished. We're gonna finish up with some of the Nouveau drops that I had mentioned earlier. And this is gonna coordinate really nicely with that gold embossing. It says copper penny and it's kind of copperish, but I felt that it was almost a really rich gold. So I'm just gonna finish these guys, add a couple drops, and that does it. So this is our first card, and we're gonna move on to our next one. This was super easy and a great way to use simple supplies. All right, guys, for our next card, we're going to be doing clean and simple. We're going to do it all on a white base. So you're going to be using from the kit the Sending You Joy and Love, and we're going to be stamping those. We're also going to use the wreath, and we're only going to use partial part of the wreath. So I'm going to show you how to extend the use of this stamp set. It's going to be super fun. For the ink pads, I'm going to be using the Simon Says stamp in Malib Blue and the green leaf. Also going to be using Sunshine and Teeny Bikini. We're going to be using from the kit the Distress Glitter, and we're going to be creating enamel epoxies out of this using Nuvo drops. I am using a glitter one. This is White Blizzard, but you can use clear or any other Nuvo if you have different brands, as long as it's going to be gluish. And then last but not least, we're going to be using the Simon Says Stamp embossing powder along with our watermark ink. You're going to need a water brush for the watercoloring. So let's get started. All right, guys, we're going to begin with a piece of white cardstock. So I'm going to be using the one that was included in the kit, and I like to cut mine 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I like to do all my stuff on panels and then add those to card bases. It just makes it easier to get things flat and centered. So I'm going to stamp the sending with the Simon Says Stamp Teeny Bikini, and we are going to attempt to center this. So, and the reason we're going to start with the stamping is because we're going to do the embossing around it. We're going to put that off to the side, and we're going to come in with Sunshine. And for the Sunshine, we are going to use the You, Joy, and Love, and this is going to be right under it. It's going to be quite pretty. And we're going to just ink that up again, center to the best of your ability. Okay, and that turned out beautiful, and I love that sentiment. Now we're going to come in and heat emboss. Okay, so for the heat embossing, we're going to be using the wreath, but we're only going to use half of it. So how is this going to work? I'm going to see how I already showed it there. I'm going to bring in my pad and just stamp half of it and get that inked up, and then bring it to one side and stamp it. And then before it dries, just stamp the edge and try not to overlap too much. You can mask this if you like with some purple tape, but we're going to do a freehand. And so we're going to do the one side and we're going to repeat on the other. I'm going to do some heat setting and we'll come back. All right, friends, so I went ahead and did the stamping, the half stamping, and the heat embossing. It's a little difficult to see white on white, but you'll see it pop through once we add our colors. So we are going to watercolor using our dye ink. So dye inks are water-based, and you can use them as watercolors. This is a great way to get your inks to match your cardstock or your other stampings, such as the sending that we got here with Teeny Bikini, and then the You Joy with the Sunshine. I'm gonna just add a little bit, stamping my pad directly onto a piece of acetate. If you don't have a piece of acetate, you know what? You have the packaging from the stamp set. So that's what I'm using for this. I have added all my colors. We're gonna set that aside. You're gonna need a water brush or a regular brush and a piece of paper towel. So we are going to begin, and this is going to be really fun because it's going to really start showing all those different leaves. So we are going to come in, and when you start, I would suggest using not a ton of water, and the reason why is that you don't want any overflow, as we are not using watercolor paper. We're using the Nina included in the kit. And so with that being said, it's just not going to absorb the water the same way. Also, with it being on white, don't worry if it's not perfect. And the reason why is just, that's okay. It's going to make it look really pretty and really fun. So as you can see, as these flowers and leaves pop through, you can see that I didn't use the same size of that wreath stamp, which just gives us a lot of variation. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my brush and come in. And this mallet blue is a little lighter than a turquoise. It's kind of a really light minty turquoise. Be sure to clean your brush well in between changing colors. That way you don't have a different color variation in between the two sides. But if you are super creative and wanting to create your own shade, you are more than welcome, and you're a brave soul. We're gonna come and grab our yellow, and if it dries on your acrylics, the ink dries on your acrylic pad or it dries on your packaging here, just add a little bit of water. It's really great to be able to reactivate that color, as you can see. So I'm just going to continue coloring this. And again, it's just a messy watercolor. Let me clean off my brush before I move on to that pink. And this is really going to be when it pops through. You could use your Zig Clean colors like we did on our other card and do the shadows first and then come in and do the messy watercolor. It is up to you, and there is no wrong or right way to do this. This is just a very easy way to get that watercolor look. All right, I'm gonna clean off my brush. You know what? I feel like we need to use more of this mallet blue. So I'm gonna come in and just add to the edges. And as I said, if it dries, just add more water. And you can always come in with your pad and add more ink. So we're gonna give that a little bit of drying time, but it turned out really pretty. All right, look how fun that turned out. It was super easy. Okay, for our next step, we are going to create a splatter. I want my splatter to match that teeny bikini, so I've added more to my acetate panel or packaging, whatever you got, and I'm going to create a nice medium to be able to splatter that. So once that's nice and wet, I am just going to go ahead and grab it. And the more water you put on it, the lighter it will be, of course. So the bigger droplets you will get. And what I'm doing simply is grabbing this and pushing down. You do want to do it on a surface that you don't mind getting the ink color. And the more of this water that you get, the bigger the splatter. So I'm just going to continue on that. And then we're going to let this dry before we start adding our Nouveau Distress Glitter embellishments. All right, friends, so these has been nice and dry, and look what a fun image we've got going on. So we're going to be using, like I said, our Nouveau drops. So we can do this several ways. You can use clear Nouveau drops or glitter Nouveau drops or anything you've got. I really like using our stash. So we're going to create a couple of these droplets in various sizes, doing small, little, large, in between the wreaths. And what we're going to do is we're going to create these to be super glittery. Once they dry, they're really going to look pretty. So you can do this both ways. We're going to be using the distressed glitter. You can put the glitter over it, or you can use the glitter duster that was included in your kit. And that's what I'm going to do. I am just going to simply point and shoot the glitter, and I really like it because it allows you to really place that glitter where you want it, and without getting a ton of glittery spots everywhere and messes, and you know how all that goes on the floor. So I'm pretty happy with my glittery. Look at that. It's going to be so pretty once it's nice and dry. And we are going to move on to our third and last card for this tutorial. Hey guys, we are doing our third card for this. We're going to be using the sending, and we'll be doing the hugs and kisses. We're going to be doing lots of repetitive stamping with these ink colors. So we're going to be using the leaves and the florals, and we're going to create a gorgeous background of happy colors. For our ink colors, we're using Mallet Blue, Green Apple, Sunshine, Teeny Bikini. For embellishments, we're going to use the mini paper balloons and coconut included in the kit. Also, we're going to be using one of the pieces of the ivory cardstock from, or white cardstock from the kit, and one of the pieces of the double-sided paper. And look how gorgeous is that. But we're going to use the striped part. You're going to need some foam adhesive to put it all together. So let's get started. Alright guys, for this first step, so I have my cardstock that's going to show the pattern paper on the top and bottom. So what we're going to create a gorgeous rainbow effect with these four colors for our sentiment, and that way we can get it all to blend in. So we're just going to go ahead and stamp about a quarter of each part of the stamp with color. And so that's okay if you get a little bit of an overlap. That's what's going to create that gorgeous ombre. We're going to come off to the other side. And if you get more ink on one piece, so like this G, I'm just gonna go and clean it off with my fingers so I can come grab my Malibu and we don't have too much of a color change or too much of a blend there going on. And these lighter colors are a little tougher, but I'm pretty happy with the way that's gonna go. Everything's nice and covered, and we're gonna just go ahead and center that. And look how pretty that is. If you were to use a Misty, you could add more color if you needed to be darker, but I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. Now we're gonna come with Hugs and Kisses. We're gonna grab our yellow, and I love the sentiments and the fonts of this stamp set. If you're watching and the kit is no longer available, which I would not be surprised because it's so pretty, you can totally still do this with getting the different components of the kit separately. Alright guys, we're going to start with the repetitive stamping. I like to set all my ink pads and everything ready to go. And I'm going to give you a little trick. I do set my piece of a paper towel or baby wipe in order to be able to use different colors and not do too much mix and matching. So one of the tricks I learned from one of the best card makers out there, I'm gonna give a shout out to Yana, was that to use the lightest colors first and then come in with your darkest color, and that way you don't overpower your card. So let me see if you can see this. That lightest color is tough to see. Then we're gonna move on to the green leaf, or I'm sorry, green apple, and we're gonna add more of these leaves. And then we're gonna grab the flowers. Okay, once we got our leaf patterns done, we're gonna begin with the flowers, and we're gonna be using the sunshine on this one. And we are going to leave quite a few white space, because I think that's what makes a clean and simple card clean and simple, right? It's leaving some of the white spaces and really, not taking away from that gorgeous sentiment that we had just stamped. We're gonna grab our little flower rose, and this is our darkest color, and that is why we left it to be the last one. You can come in with some color pencils or your water brush once it's all dry and fill in some of the interior of each flower. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave this nice and clean to be layered onto our pattern paper. So that's what that looks like. Let me bring it up to the camera and give you guys a close-up. Now we're gonna go ahead and put it on the pattern paper. Alright guys, so I have my pattern paper. I've added some foam adhesive to the back. This is just a 3M double-sided foam, and I'm going to place it and try to really center and get both top and bottom to be evenly. This is paper, so we can move it just a tad before we press down. And once that's ready to go, there we go. We are going to start embellishing. So for our embellishments, we're going to use the florals included in the kit. And so I had mentioned when we started this tutorial that you would want wire cutters if you had them. And if you don't, what you can do is just bend, and remove it off the wire. Next, we are going to be using a heavy adhesive such as a glue dot. So I'm going to cut that strip off and add this directly to my card base. Press it down, remove the backing, and then come in with the flower and press that down. When you mail this, you will need to do a piece of foam or something on the top so you don't ruin it. So we're gonna go ahead and do the second flower up there. Again, remove the backing of the glue dots. If you're using a dispenser, that might be a little bit easier, but there is no right or wrong way to do this. If you don't have glue dots, you can use regular adhesive. You're just gonna have to really press it down. So I'm gonna trim that, come on, got it, and press it down. This is a great way to use the embellishments in the kit and yet not take away from the clean and simple. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorials. Those were super fun cards to make using basic supplies. I'm gonna ask you, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you really like it, reshare and subscribe so I can continue providing these tutorials to you free of charge. All the products are listed below. So if you are no longer able to get the kit from Simon Says, you are able to get the contents that were in the kit separately. So I'm going to link all the products below of what was used just in case. I'm pretty sure the kit is going to sell out, so you can get that